Hi, fellow whiskey lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Whisky Wednesdays. My name's Daryl Lim, and I'm your host. You'll see a new setup that we have in place because I finally moved into my new home. There will be a whiskey closet being installed sometime later on next month, and I'll be sure to showcase that on this channel, the full installation of that whiskey closet. So stay tuned for more of that. This week, we're going to be continuing with our Macaloney Distillery series. The Macaloney will be the whiskey we're tasting today, followed by the Peated Direct Brack next week, and the following week would be the Invermally Special Edition. And that would complete our Macaloney Caledonian Distillery series. If you'd like me to showcase a different Macaloney Caledonian Distillery whiskey, please add your comments at the link below. This week, we're tasting the Macaloney, one of the more popular whiskeys from Macaloney Caledonian Distillery's lineup. Macaloney, that very name, means in Scottish Gaelic, the son of malt. It's a direct reference to a single malt whiskey. And this week, I'm tasting the whiskey in a Macaloney Caledonian Distillery's very own batched Glencairn glass. So we're going to go over the 4 areas for this whiskey: color, nose, palate, and finish. Let's look at the color of this Macaloney, that rich, honey, deep brown. So it's a nice brown finish to it. I like to say it's a mahogany brown. And for the second part, we're going to do the nose. So if you remember how we do the nose, we're going to be able to put your nose right in the center and give it a good sniff in 2 ways, through your nose as well as through your mouth. Can immediately sense that richness come through, almost like a very sweet, I'd say a smoked vanilla scent that comes through it. I can smell a rather oakiness to it, like a smell of wood. Definitely sweet. I can almost, the richness is quite prominent. You'll notice that when I'm doing the scent and the nose, I like to sniff it a number of times, and sometimes I like to clear my nostrils before going back and doing that sniff again. And doing that a few times gives you different hints each time. And again, I've always said before, whiskey appreciation is all about how you enjoy the whiskey. So every person's going to smell something different based on your cultural background and your reference points. And you're also going to taste something different. And for the third aspect, let's do the palate. 2 ways of doing this. The first is the short taste, where you can swallow the whiskey right away. And the second would be the longer taste, where you let it swirl and coat your palate for a couple of seconds more before you swallow. In both instances, after you've swallowed, make sure that you're tasting your taste buds while blowing out of your nose like a dragon breathing fire. So here we go for the taste. I'll do the short taste first, followed by the long taste. Wow. I can immediately taste that burn. It's like a fire that lights right off on your tongue. I taste almost like a smoked wheat to it. The barley is quite prominent. I would say a little bit of a hint of vanilla. It actually smells sweeter than it tastes. And again, I like to smell and taste interchangeably because after a few more sips of the whiskey, the flavor profile changes, but certainly the scent sometimes also changes. It's interesting for that second tasting, by letting that whiskey swirl on my palate for a few seconds longer, and I taste a very interesting flavor. Again, it comes up from memory. I almost taste like Kentucky Fried Chicken. If you remember those mashed potato and gravy, I almost had that taste, that recollection of that taste come up in my second tasting. I know it sounds a little bit odd connecting KFC with whiskey, but again, it's all about every person having a different reference point. The smoked vanilla, the smokiness is there. It's not the smoke and this peaty, so it's not peaty at all, but a bit of a light sweet smoke flavor to it. Very spicy. I like how the spice just dances off your lips. It doesn't bite on your tongue. It's not acidic, but it does lightly dance off of your palate. So I do like this flavor. It's not extremely sweet either, but it is definitely a single malt that is unique, very Canadian, and one of my favorite ones among the Macaloneys lineup. For the fourth tasting, I like to do the finish. Now, the finish and the palate very similar, except I'm noticing different things. So for the palate, I'm noticing more flavor, whereas for the finish, I'm noticing how long it takes for that whiskey to dissipate off of my palate. If it's really quickly, likely a short finish. Then there's the medium finish, and then generally a long finish. So let's go ahead and try this one more time, and let's focus on how long that whiskey takes to dissipate off your palate. One great thing about the finish that I love to feel the sensation of is when you're swallowing that whiskey and how long that spiciness or the whiskey burns through your esophagus. And in this case, I would probably call this more of a short, medium whiskey. It has the sweet flavor, it has the spiciness, but it's not overbearing, and it doesn't, like I said, bite and stay on your palate for an extended period of time. It is not peaty at all. So for those of you who enjoy sweet whiskeys, but also want the single malt flavors to it, this is definitely one of the nicest and easiest whiskeys to enjoy. I can see why this would be one of the favorites in the lineup sold by Macaloney Caledonian Distillery. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and fellow whiskey lovers. Stay tuned next week as we taste the Macaloney Caledonian Distillery's Peated Dirac Brac. And one of my favorite whiskeys is, well, in general, I enjoy the peated whiskeys, but the Peated Dirac Brac has a very interesting flavor, and I'm going to touch more on that next week. I want to thank all of you for tuning in, and I want to wish all of my BC viewers a very safe week. And for those of you who are affected by the flood situation going on there in the Lower Mainland, my heart goes out to you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and keep enjoying those drams. Until next week, sláinte.